Well, hello. My name is Celisa. I'm coming to you from the channel Beautifully Me and You, where we co-create our lives to make them much more beautiful for the both of us. Well, something very interesting happened to me, and I thought it was very profound in my life, something I had never heard of, and so I thought I'd share and bring that information to you today. If that sounds like something that interests you, stay tuned. Well, before we get started, I want to ask you a question. Are you subscribed to my channel? If not, it's free. All you have to do is hit the button down below and also hit the bell so you'll be notified every time I upload a video. I'll wait. Great. Now that we've got that taken care of, I also want to say, if you like the video after you've watched it, please hit the thumbs up, because that allows my video to be suggested to other people who might benefit from this information as well. Whew. Now that we got that out of the way, let's talk about how to get out of your head and tap into spirit. That's what you're here for. For me, journaling has never been one of my favorite things to do. I'm more of an auditory learner, and I also like to speak, as you clearly can see, hence the reason why I make videos. I'm surprised I don't have a podcast, but maybe that's in the works. Anyway, I really am not the person who likes to write, and so journaling has just never been a passion of mine. However, here in Atlanta, there is a shop called The Modern Mystic. It's a beautiful shop. It has lots of jewelry, stones, crystals, candles. It's also where I get my Palo Santo and my white sage, which I am going to put a smudging video out soon. But in this shop, they also host something very important for the community, and it's free classes every Sunday at 11 a.m., and they call it Sunday School. In this Sunday School, they explore several different types of topics. I was originally drawn to a class that was about how to change from a healer to an entrepreneur. So that was the first class that drew me in, and after I went to that class, I was hooked. Since then, I usually look on the roster to see what type of classes they're offering each Sunday and determine if I want to go. You do have to sign up online ahead of schedule because the classes fill up pretty fast. This particular class that I'm going to be talking about today was life-changing for me. Very, very profound, and it had a huge impact in my life, just one class, and that is automatic writing. It was specifically geared towards teaching you how to get out of your head and how to tap into spirit using automatic writing. I'm going to link the podcast because I do have a weekly podcast for these Sunday school classes. I'll link this particular class down below. The teacher of this class was a lady named Bijoux Wright, and I'll link her Instagram down below as well. She does have several services, and if you're in the Atlanta or California area, I believe Northern California, you probably could reach out to her to acquire some services. And I'm thinking of doing that as well. Now, this particular class was listed as learning a technique that will allow you to get messages from the divine, your spirit guides, or even your loved ones unconsciously through writing. Again, I tell you guys that I'm really not into writing, and But I thought, let me push myself and go to this class because all of the other classes have been so great and so informative in a small setting. I'm just going to tell you the story that happened to me. You can listen to the podcast and do the exercise yourself and see if it transforms your life the way that it did mine. So the day that I decided to go to the class, I had a lot of running around to do with my kids, as well as cleaning up my house, and the class starts again at 11 a.m. And a couple of obstacles came in the way, and in the end, through traffic in Atlanta, per usual, I was running late. And when you get to the class, all of the people who are attending face the door. And so you have to walk into the door past all of these people to find your seat. And I was so upset that I was going to be late because I've been to classes there before, and I knew that I would have to walk past everyone in the middle of the class. Not middle, but I was running about 5 or 10 minutes late. I almost didn't go to the class, but something inside of me, I want to say my intuition, told me just keep going. Don't give up, stay with it, and if you have to show up late, you will. So I got to the class, and sure enough, everybody was looking at me as I walked in, and the speaker stands in the front of the store giving her talk, which was Bijoux. She was very kind. She asked if I needed a paper or a pen so that I can work on the automatic writing exercises that we will be doing in the class. And I really had no idea that we were going to be doing these exercises there. I thought it was more of a teaching setting where she'd show us how to do it and then we can practice it at home. But no, we actually did 3 writing situations there within the store or within the class. So I took a piece of paper and a pen and walked to my seat. And when I got there, they were just about to start the first writing exercise. And she said, write down something that you want to know the answer to. And she said, you can ask like, why am I not finding true love in my life? Or why am I having such problems and difficulties in my work setting? And some other situations, some other examples she gave. But immediately I thought of, why am I always late? I was so irritated that I was late. I felt like I set out in advance to get there on time and I still ended up late. So I asked, why am I always late? And my other question was, why am I having such a hard time holding on to wealth? Because with me, if you watch my videos, I can manifest a lump sum of money in an instant. But to hold on to it and have continuous growth of income over time and establish true wealth, that's what I'm having difficulties with. So I wanted to find out what the blocks were so that I can press forward. Okay, so now that I had wrote down all of my questions, she began by saying she just wanted us to write. And you can hear it in the podcast very specifically how the class transformed. If you want to listen to that, then you'll have the flow of what I'm talking about. I'm just doing it off of my recollection. It might not be exact. Don't hold me to it. Like I said, the podcast is linked below. But she basically said, you're just going to put your pen to your paper. You're not going to look at your paper. You're going to instead close your eyes or look up, but not look at your paper so that you're not controlling what you're writing consciously. And then you're just going to write whatever comes to mind. Now she started beating an African drum to kind of keep your mind focused on another sound or another thought, which would be your mind following that sound versus what you're writing down. And so she began to beat the drum and she said to just write. If you didn't know what to write, she also advised that you just write, I don't know what to write, or I don't know what to write. Just continuously write that over until something came in your head that you needed to write down. Not to try to control it, but to just begin to write whatever thoughts came to mind. And it would be the answer to your question, but given to you from the divine or your spirit guides. So for me, as she began to beat the drum, I just began to write. Now, the writing didn't look like my own. It was very sloppy, and I'm very particular about how I write when I write, and that's maybe why I don't like to journal as well. The control of having the penmanship so perfect is difficult for me, and I want to rewrite it again and again, to make it neat. But she said, don't concentrate on your penmanship. So I kind of just began to write. And in the beginning, I was writing, I don't know what to write. I don't know what to write. And then all of a sudden, it's like a voice was inside of my head. And I know this sounds very like, ooh, it's not like that. It's just, I heard something say to me that the two questions that I asked about being late and about acquiring wealth and holding on to it had the same answer. And that answer was that I needed to get more organized. And that if I was more organized with my time, I would have more time. And if I was more organized with my finances, I would be able to acquire more finances. So it was all about me getting more organized. And it then began to be revealed to me that this was across several areas of my life. And honestly, I do struggle with organization. So recently I started to develop a Google Calendar in order to become more organized and structured about what I'm doing throughout my days and nights. But during the writing session, as I was writing, it seemed like lines crossed over lines. I couldn't even keep it straight. I wasn't concerned about that at the time because I was just trying to write down everything I was hearing or everything that popped into my head. But it brought me to tears. I felt so much appreciation in that moment that I was being guided and that I was being told something that I had never thought about, you know? I never thought my disorganization stopped me from, being on time or always running late that seems like an easy connect, but it didn't connect with me. And then to further connect it to the fact that I can't grow more wealth or hold on to the wealth that I'm acquiring because I'm not organized about the way I'm spending or how I'm investing or what projects I'm putting my finances into. Like that never occurred to me. And so it brought me to tears, and I had so much love in my heart that I was being guided, and I felt that I was being guided. I knew that it wasn't thoughts of my own. And then the drum stopped and she said, put the pen down with whatever you had written on your page. And she took questions from the audience. I asked a question during that podcast or during that class. And my question was, is there ever going to be a time when we can look at the paper? Because my words were getting so jumbled together and so sloppy that I felt like I couldn't read it or remember the information later if I went back to read it. But, now that the class has been over for a few weeks, I've held on so tightly to the guidance I received during that class. It moved me in a way that I wouldn't be able to forget. Even if I never read the paper again, I remember the feeling I had during the class. So then she had us do it again. And the second time she said we can even ask who our guides were. And we can ask their names, or we can ask what guidance we needed to get if we didn't have a specific question. So in this particular session, I asked specifically about what was the name of my spirit guide, and I wanted to know, was there anything that I needed to know about myself? So those were the two questions that I asked. And in the second session, she started beating the drum again and we began to write, she said we could look at our paper. But I didn't want to. It's crazy. I asked about it, but once I got to the second session of writing, I didn't want to because as I started to look at the paper, I was so distracted on what I was writing that I couldn't hear clear messages. And it began the same. I don't know what to write. I don't know what to write. And then I looked up from the paper and it seemed like words just began to flow again. And this time I was told there were several people that were on my spiritual team. One of the names that came through was my grandmother, and her name is Inez. And also my great aunt, whose name is Aunt Annabelle. And they were there helping me along the way. And it brings me to tears now just to think about it, because I don't know, I never felt that before, and this time I was actually able to feel that. I felt that love. And so the guidance they were giving me was that I was loved, that I was protected, and that no matter what I did, I couldn't fail. And that was powerful for me. So hold on 1 minute. I had to get myself together. So basically, they were saying they were there to support me, but that there were several spiritual ancestors and people on my team. And like I said, it brings me to tears to talk about it today, and it's been almost a month ago That's just how much this class moved me. And it gave me the inspiration and the belief that I am powerful. And not to say I didn't think that before, but it just solidified the belief that I had in myself. And I began to realize that this journey that I'm on is more spiritual than I previously believed. And I now know there are people watching over me. That was huge. That was a huge revelation for me. So since the class, what have I done? Well, I've began to get more organized with my time, more organized with my finances, more organized even with my cleaning schedule. I've also began to connect just a little bit more to spirit and look for the guidance, look for the answers just a little bit more. Life is so much more spiritual than I ever knew. You know, I'm learning every day. This particular class, like I said, it changed my life and it helped me to realize that there is guidance there when I need it. Now, will I be automatic writing every day? Probably not, because I've not done it again since the class. But as soon as I have a question where I feel like I need help and support, trust me, I will turn to automatic writing. And maybe if you listen to the podcast and practice the exercise yourself, you will too. Well, that's all I have for today. If this video, you enjoyed it, please leave a comment down below and let me know how or when you're going to try the automatic writing as well. The comments also help my channel to be suggested to others so they can learn from this information. So I really appreciate any support and any comments that come through. All right, well, I hope you guys have a great weekend. Look forward to my first 7 days of manifestation challenge video. That is probably going to be the next video that comes out. All right, enjoy your weekend. Take care.